Lviv had the good fortune of escaping major destruction in the Second World War, and its position on the trade roads between the Black Sea and Central Europe furnished it with more beautiful architecture than you can hope to get through in one visit. The Old Center is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, bursting with more than 2,000 registered landmarks, many in mint condition despite being 500 years old. This abundance of sophisticated stone-built architecture is partly down to a calamity, as all the wooden buildings were wiped out by two fires in the 1500s.
Market Square. It seems like all streets in the Old Town converge on this historic and hectic central square surrounding Lviv's town hall. Market Square heaves with locals, tourists, and street performers, and the amount to see on this one plaza is almost overwhelming. There are glorious townhouses on each side of the square, many from the Renaissance, especially on the east side, and some with later Rococo designs. Most contain bars, restaurants, and cafes where you can watch the throngs, but there are numerous museums and tasteful artisan shops. Rounding off the scene are four classical fountains, one on each corner and depicting Diana, Neptune, Adonis, and Amphitrite.
George's Cathedral. This 18th century Catholic cathedral looks out over Lviv from its namesake hill on the west side of the city. It was built over 15 years up to 1760, and its exterior ornamentation is as rich as it gets. Against walls painted a pale yellow there are lavish Rococo pilasters, sculptures, balustrades, and highly ornate moldings. Above the portal stand two dominant statues, one of Sleo and the other of Athanasius, both the work of the Czech sculptor Johann Georg Pinsel. After all that drama, the interior is a lot more discreet, but there are some fascinating things to see, like a wonder-working icon of Mary from the 1600s, and tombs for some eminent figures of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. City Hall. The seat of Lviv's City Council is a medley of buildings, the oldest dating to the 14th century. The oldest elements are towards the center, while the western side is from the turn of the 16th century. The City Hall was capped with a new 650-meter Renaissance Revival tower in the 1830s. As long as you've got the energy, a trip to the top should be one of the first things you do in Lviv, because it's the easiest way to get your bearings. This is no simple task though, as just to get to the ticket office you have climbed 103 steps. And after that you've got to tackle another 305 before you come to that vista of the city and its famous hills. Chapel of the Boim family. On the eastern edge of Cathedral Square there's a 17th century Mannerist chapel that has no equivalent in either Ukraine or the rest of Europe. The facade is completely taken over by sandstone carvings that may take a while to decipher. On the lower tier are statues of the apostles Peter and Paul. In the middle are cartouches with Latin inscriptions, while on the densely packed third tier are scenes from the Passion. Armenian Cathedral. There has been an Armenian community in Lviv since the 13th century, and it's around 1,000 strong today after immigration during the Soviet Union. As the oldest church in the city, the Armenian Cathedral was founded in the 1360s. The church has seen a few changes due to fire, but the Byzantine layout and Hotchkar's engravings of Armenian crosses in the apse on the eastern side of the temple are from the earliest period. The southern section of the arcaded courtyard outside is also historic and dates to the 15th century. In the 1900s, the church's interior walls were painted with bold Art Nouveau frescoes by the Polish artists Joseph Mehofer and Jan Henrik Rosen. Lviv Arsenal. There's a department of the Lviv Historical Museum at one of the city's 3 historic arsenal buildings. It's a stiff walk uphill just east of the center, but will thrill anyone with a taste for old-school weaponry. The exhibition spans 1,000 years and 30 countries and has blades and firearms that increase of varying sophistication. Many of these pieces were crafted to be seen and come encrusted with precious stones and inlaid with ivory and mother of pearl. One of a catalog of must-sees is a double-edged Ottoman sword from the 17th century named Zul Kifar. There are also Polish maces from the High Middle Ages, an Italian Renaissance ceremonial helmet, a Tatar shield from the 17th century, and bronze cannons forged in Lviv in the 1500s and 1600s. Dominican Church. Lviv has more than 100 churches, but the Baroque Dominican Church to the east of Market Square should be a priority. The present temple was completed in 1761, and this plot has been occupied by a Dominican church of some kind since 1378. Its distinguishing feature is an elongate ellipsoid dome bears a resemblance to Vienna's famed Karlskirche, built around 20 years before. Go in to stand under that dome and see the pairs of sturdy Corinthian columns holding it up. After a spell as a museum in Soviet times, the church has been reconsecrated and is unusual in that you're allowed to take photographs inside within reason, and because of the high number of weddings that take place here. High Castle, watching over Lviv from its northeastern fringe is High Castle Hill, the perch for the eponymous castle dating to 1250 but dismantled in the 19th century. The hill crests at 413 meters, and setting off on foot from Market Square it takes about 25 minutes to reach the top. The path is perfectly walkable, if a little taxing on the upper reaches, when the slope becomes very sharp. But a bit of persistence will give you another sweeping view of Lviv, where you can compare the palaces, towers, and spires of old Lviv with the Soviet housing blocks of the suburbs. The castle is a ruin today, and there is not much left apart from a wall. But the journey is all about the view and the vegetation at the top. Come just at sunrise in summer, and you may have it completely to yourself. Lviv Theatre of Opera and Ballet. Lviv's resplendent opera house is one of the city's symbols and stands alone on Freedom Square. A design competition in the 1890s was won by Polish architect Zygmunt Gorgolewski, and he made a few technical innovations. This location had been marshland, watered by the Polv River, which was diverted underground. The theater was then built onto a concrete platform, and after sinking for a couple of years eventually stabilized. Almost 120 years later, this marvelous venue remains the place to get a blast of high culture at a matinee or evening performance, where seats are implausibly inexpensive. In residence is a 90-piece orchestra, first-class soloists, and a ballet troupe, all with an extensive repertoire. Do you want to learn more about Ukraine and learn Ukrainian? Follow the link below the video and book a free consultation.